So across the topic of fight for your health, nothing is more important than the toxins. This is a laboratory, one of many, that are trying to help us measure these so that we can minimize the effect. And if we talk about solvents from gas, if we talk styrene, organophosphate, pesticides from our food, phthalates from our plastics, makes no difference. We are all, there's no one ever tested that passes the test. If we look at organic pollutants that are persisting, the dioxin, the DDT, the PCBs, everybody tests positive. So how are you going to help a patient? If Bill Moyer on television, who actually went to China with Nixon, came back and was changed and decided to live organically, we test him and he fails every test. So it means that we're in trouble. So the increases in serious health problems have been tied to this. Childhood brain cancers, asthma rates, autism, we know it's all tied. So now we have people beginning to realize they need to protect themselves with a lot of the jobs that people have. And we know that the latest assessment of people carrying around the bioassessment, in this study they measured 212 chemicals. They highlighted a few of the chemicals found in all or most people. Polybrominated diphenyl ethers, flame retardants. You're loaded. Every mammal on the face of the earth, at the Arctic and the Antarctic. There's no place. We have really released this. We wanted to have the children's pajamas so they wouldn't burn in case the house catches on fire. Then we treated the mattress. Now we've treated the world. Bisphenol A, the perfluorinated chemicals that we treat heat-resistant non-stick coatings, mercury from eating fish, gasoline additives, the list just goes on and on. The perils of plastic. Since World War II, these chemicals have risen rapidly, and we get better detecting them. We're discovering even tiny quantities have potentially serious impact on our children's future, and they're key ingredients in modern plastics, and they disrupt functioning. What causes autism? Well, for me, that's why I teach that it is a form of an autoimmune disease. And if you get the book, The Autoimmune Epidemic, by Donna Jackson Nakazawa, you will read, endorsed by the head of autoimmunity at NIH and by the head of autoimmunity at Johns Hopkins, they endorsed the book. And the book has success stories that come from the F and the I and the G and the H and the T. So it's not an accident that this book ties directly to all the work, because I saw the book and I knew that I could never help people if I couldn't wake them up to the need for dealing on a multifactorial level, the whole problem. Now, Dr. Landergan is a pediatrician, MD, Master in Science, chief at the Department of Preventive Medicine, a little place called Mount Sinai School of Medicine. He's the one place in the United States that does the $5,000 test of the 220 chemicals. So when he speaks, you need to listen. And he's taken a long time to come out and speak, but now he's getting mad and he's speaking. He's letting it out. So when he starts to talk, he's getting very concerned and linking the autism to exposures in early pregnancies, thalidomide, valproic acid, the maternal repellent, the organophosphate. Children are surrounded by thousands. 200 are neurotoxic. 1,000 are in lab. Fewer than 20% have ever been tested. So we have a problem. British researcher Wakefield. Andrew Wakefield is an MD, PhD, board-certified pediatric gastroenterologist. And we've had to destroy him because he was the same as the guy that worked for the tobacco industry that brought tobacco to its knees. It was a great movie called The Insider, and they told how they destroyed him. Everything he'd ever said. As a kid, if he stole a comic book as a kid, then he couldn't be telling the truth when he tells you that he works for tobacco and knows how addictive and dangerous. So we have to destroy people. We can't listen to the message. We have to kill the messenger. So Wakefield, I'm not going to say any more. I know him personally. I've spent hours with him. I know some of his patients. And when they have sunk to a new low level that the British Journal of Medicine actually lets a newspaper reporter write an article and call him and his work a fraud and say that none of these patients ever had any any symptom of gastroenteritis, and he dreamed this all up, is the height of idiocy. They are all available to be seen on one website, Callous Disregard. So anybody wondering who's telling the truth, but it's amazing when you have an entire vaccine industry at risk. And it's amazing how many people are willing to start a lie and keep the lie, but it's the same stories with tobacco. Till the very end they had doctors saying, I smoked a cigarette and it's the only way I keep my patients. You've got to have a Camel to stay healthy. So his website, Callous Disregard, his book, there's nothing I can tell you other than this guy is the actual guy telling the truth. But now they said, oh, he was going to get rich because he was going to come up with a test so that everybody could find out, whatever. Is there any researcher in any business in America in medicine that doesn't dream that they're going to get some new patent medicine? Everybody always thinks about, oh, if I have the cure to cancer, how rich do I get? It's not of how soon can I share this with the world. So now we have everybody attacking the anti-vaccinationists because we're harming the public health. Let's get that straight. When you become knowledgeable about this thing, they have never proven their case about the benefits of vaccine, and yet you look at the Vaccine Injury Recovery Act and see the millions we spend out. There are clearly people who are irreparably maimed. Now, how many people are you allowed to maim, permanently destroy, proven by vaccine recovery, huge millions we pay out? How many are you allowed to destroy if you don't have any proof that you're doing good? What if the polio was disappearing on its own? What if smallpox was disappearing on its own? So these are really tough issues. And when we live in a greed-based society in which the bucks drive the game, those who aren't going to go along are going to be persecuted, and it is so sad. They now have you saying, oh, it's not, you must force this family has to be vaccinated. We can't have you in our neighborhood with your children playing with our children, they're not vaccinated. And yet, the vaccines are a useful approach, and the day will come that we could have vaccines that would be tremendously beneficial. It's just that nobody wants to spend the money right now to really take it to the next level. They've been getting away with murder for so many years. Why should we stop now and really do this right? So it's sad that vaccine safety, current controversy. So across the board, the large population studies have failed to provide any support for Wakefield. They get up and pronounce this, ignoring the fact that Dr. Healy says, I was with the NIH, and none of us read any of the research because we knew what our report had to say. It didn't have to do, because our country couldn't afford to pay all the people whose lives have been wrecked. We wouldn't dare tell the truth. There'd be so many billions and billions of dollars to pay. You see, what they did is that they came up with this great concept that the drug company doesn't have to pay. It's only Uncle Sam's job to pay. And once they did that, then the drug company said, well, gee, it doesn't cost us anything. A few people die, who cares? So it is sad. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny is an incredible resource on this information. And she's doing a lot of effort. It's Mayor Eisenstein, who's also an attorney, and he's an MPH. He's a dear friend of mine in Chicago, and he has actually delivered some 12,000 babies at home. Home birth may be the only way out, because then he didn't vaccinate. It's pretty sad to realize that they have so much power. But I want you to think seriously about what I'm telling you. Because vaccinations, all Andrew Wakefield ever said, it was recorded. He said, until we know more, maybe we should give the vaccine separate. An M, and then another M, and then another R. That's all he said. And when he said that, they were available as singles. You didn't have to do the triple. And conveniently, they made it disappear. And now they claim that he was going to somehow have a patent on the single vaccines. I mean, the nonsense that is going on now in an effort to discredit the only true voice of who's actually telling what was going on. Believe me, you don't become a pediatric gastroenterologist. And they have taken his license. It's like every time I go to London, he's still front page news. It's been 12 years, and they still have a complete vendetta to destroy this man. It's how many times Lancet has ever taken? All the other 8 doctors had to rescind. 8 other doctors were on their paper every one of them was told you either rescind and say it was all nonsense or you don't have a job anymore. So, pretty interesting name. What the chemical industry doesn't want you to know. This is the Environmental Working Group. Now, you can't question these people. These people are fellow citizens who are putting the money up to test those 10 babies. They're the ones that are testing Bill Moore. These are the ones that just want to know the truth. They just let us know the truth. Because the testing is expensive, we're living here in a vacuum. The hard evidence that tiny amounts of bisphenol A is causing irreversible changes in the prostate of female. I mean, FDA honestly tried to, a year ago, swear that EPA was nothing wrong with it, that BPA was fine. And there was a massive outcry saying, you guys can't lie that much. They lie all the time. As I told you, they can't even come up with a safe level of mercury. Why would there be such a conflict? Well, it's a complicated story, but Saddam Hussein had to bump off about 500,000 people. Now, you never knew that, but Saddam Hussein, what's a good way to bump people off? You send them mercury-treated wheat seeds with no warning. And that's where we bumped all these people off. And that's where a lot of the data about mercury and that. So it's interesting to know who were the consultants. Anyhow, it's a long story, all written up in the one book. Very simple book, Diagnosis Mercury. But you become a diagnosed mercury doctor, you have to know your stuff because you're going to be hated by everybody who makes their living preying off of people, telling them it just needs a behaviorist. You need the right drug. Yeah, we're not going to treat causes. You have this whole system. Stay with the system. Let your kid never function. You know, it's what's going on. Toxic materials take the lifeblood of our society. Phthalate warning. Medications can feminize unborn baby boys. It happens during pregnancy when it causes the hormone disruption. It happens more to the males. They're used in pharmaceutical coatings. School drinking water contains toxins. Millions drink dirty water. Is your home making you sick? They tell you, on the bad days, don't go outside. Well, the truth is that the house is more toxic than the outdoors is. If you read, it's very simple. The formaldehyde degassing from the pegboard that is used to make your kitchen cabinets and what's coming off your carpet is so, I mean, where are you safe? The chemical spills on or near the property. Chemical toxins are found in the particle board, the wiring, the flooring. It's where to run. And so that's why I have chosen to use biochemistry and physics, because I can aid your body's ability to push these things out by combining biochemistry with physics. The chemicals of greatest interest are, of course, bisphenol A and phthalic. This is David Ewan Duncan, who wrote the book Experimental Man. This is just showing that he's going to get poisoned by the Teflon he's cooking his meal with. And across the board, we're going to wrap our food in plastic so we all get poisoned. Now, the PFOA is knocking out thyroid, according to the National Health Association Nutrition Education Study. Major studies of Teflon suggest that it's harming the immune system, the liver, and the thyroid. Preliminary data was released as the Senate votes to ban. Elevated in children associated with high cholesterol. So, you know, cholesterol goes up in your body because it's doing good. It is an antioxidant. It's so because it's high, we're going to slam a toxic drug in there that will definitely make you sick and do damage to your body while it was doing good. Cholesterol by itself was not a harm. It's a basic building block of every cell membrane in your body. And so we have it all kind of turned upside down and backwards. Polybrominated diphenyl ether. Where are you going to find it? It's in dryer lint. It doesn't make any difference. They're hydrophobic. They're sticky. They're going to, when you eat a potato chip that's transferring from your hand to your body, it's unbelievable where all these toxins are coming. Bisphenol A is now on the back of the dollar bill. When you handle money, you're getting poisoned. It's amazing. Looking good could be dangerous. In the makeup, we know that 1,000 cosmetics, less than 1% are made from ingredients that have been tested. And, you know, honestly, we had a product called Grecian Formula for years. Grecian Formula is made with lead. I'm a researcher in lead because I have a laboratory with offices in Bangkok and Tokyo. Tokyo, in Boston, and San Francisco, and Amsterdam. And so I see all these high levels of lead. Now, when you see them all the time, then it becomes clear that some of these people are using Grecian Formula. And I had doctors who had to give up their practice because their memory got so bad they could no longer practice. And nobody had told them. So I'm in touch with the FDA saying, you've got to stop these idiots. Nobody at FDA even wanted to listen to me. They had no interest at all. And yet, anything you put on the skin is absorbed through the skin, and I have restored many people to full functioning by bringing their lead levels down to something the brain could deal with. Alzheimer's, it's not genetic, it's the toxins in our environment. It's the pollution, the lead, the thing is, Alzheimer's, nobody has to have it. I don't care if the family, I mean, we have risk factors, sure, absolutely, certain genetic predispositions set the stage, but that stage has to be manifested by the actual cell responding to the receptor. And when you don't express the receptor, it doesn't happen. So it's just important. Just one of the conditions in the Western world that increases the risk by 100%, having any of these diseases. Metabolic syndrome, who doesn't have metabolic syndrome today? If they're not diabetic, they're not diabetic. Everybody has these underlying factors. Now, Mr. G, here's about me from the website. And he's been for 20 years under a very famous center in New York City, one of the most famous. And he came in initially because he's losing his vision. And over a period of 20 years, it gets worse and worse and worse. And after 20 years, he's in a wheelchair. But they finally hung a diagnosis on his vision. He's diagnosed with MS. And after 20 years of being in one of the most expensive medical centers in New York City, they tell him, we're sorry, there's nothing we can do. We've done everything we know. We've tried every known treatment. They throw in the sponge. So, like any bright man, now that you've tried all the stuff, the stupid stuff your insurance covered, he thinks I better think for myself. So he goes to my website, he learns some of the things that are available. And he sees one of the doctors who works like an ACAM doctor, and he winds up taking a few treatments to push a few toxins out and getting a few Myers cocktails. And he got so dramatically improved that he thought, gee, I better do some more of this stuff. So he contacts me, and he winds up on Zeogold Bioenergy C. That's the methylation support form of vitamin C that you can take 10, 20 grams a day. It's what I'm living on. And the oral chelation. In less than 3 months, he's driving the car after all those years in the wheelchair. He's able to be a father to his... He was only about a 45-year-old guy. He was so excited, he came all the way down so I could record him when I was giving a lecture in Florida. He came 5-6 hours just so I could see him in person and put it out. So his neurologist throws in the towel. A lot of people will be greatly helped if your incompetent mainstream doctor throws in the towel and throws you free to start thinking for yourself, because the internet is going to give you information that even if it's bad, is probably going to be no worse than what you're getting from mainstream. And sometimes it may be pointing you in the direction of what Mark Hyman and Gary Gordon are pushing you, to the multifactorial nature of illness, so that you start doing something in every category, not expecting any drug to change your stuff if you still eat the food you're sensitive to. So if we studied how to get the lead out, the best way is to let the body excrete it, and through diet and exercise. And you have to be knowing that sweating. Sweating, sweating, sweating. How much sweating is enough sweating? Do you have any idea how much sweating we do when you really are in deep trouble? Nobody would be a better example than the workers who responded to the 9/11 disaster when the Twin Towers went down. Nobody could have more toxins. Now, we just got them billions of dollars by Congress to pay for them because they are so sick. But nobody gave them any masks. Just like when we had the British Petroleum nastiness down there with the huge thing, they didn't want anybody to be allowed to wear a mask because then you'd know how toxic things were, so they wouldn't let you see a mask on television. But we have those sick people now. Some of them came to real doctors who belong to the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, or the Academy of Holistic Medicine, or IFM, or ACAM, or the Institute for Functional Medicine, or the International College for Integrative Medicine, ICIM.org. There's many organizations I belong to. Some of the doctors there know that Ron L. Hubbard, who started the Church of Scientology, was very smart. He started the Hubbard tank therapy. And he was the first one to say, you guys are all going to have to pay attention to me. Like my religion or not, you're going to one day be sitting in a Hubbard tank. What's a Hubbard tank? It's a sauna. And how long do you sit in that sauna? 8 hours a day? 9, 10 hours a day? How long? A week? 2 weeks? Never less than 3 weeks. And on some of those guys, it was 2 months. 2 months. Taking nutrients. And in the first week, they get so sick, we release so many toxins that they can't find their way home from the treatment. So we have to have them drivers. I can even do that with PEMF, which is now approved, as I indicate to you, by FDA for the treatment of depression. Because we have people there that when you put the PEMF, you're going to release so many toxins that you won't have an immediate upper, you're going to have a downer. Because your body doesn't know what to, because your cells finally have it. So it'd be very smart if you could learn how to do my nutritional talk and my detoxification trick to support the physics, so all this would work together. So one of the negative effects that it can be blocked by nutritional supplements. During early fetal development, maternal supplements of methyl-donating substances, please memorize this. Folic acid, and we did cut down on the neural tube defects, even though we give the wrong form of folic acid, it's doing a fraction of what it could have done. But we didn't want to endorse something that was expensive. It doesn't take a prescription. Actually, it's a medical food. The metformin is available as a medical food. But if you get that in the methyl B12 and get choline and get the betaine hydrochloride, betaine, trimethylglycine, methyl sulfonamide, we're supporting what's going on. It was caused in the first place by BPA. So if we look at the key things in the Utah meth cops, this is where you will know that the Attorney General State of Utah has endorsed paying state money to doctors who put patients into the Hubbard therapy and keep them for 1 or 2 months. Now, why would a state pay all this kind of money? This isn't FDA approved. This isn't covered by your Blue Cross. Why would they pay for that detoxification where you sit and sweat 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 1 or 2 months? Well, it's pretty simple. These are cops on the job when they arrested people with meth labs. When you arrest people with a meth lab, some of them aren't friendly. They don't want to be arrested. And they take all the chemicals and throw them in the air, and you being a good cop don't want them to get away, so you keep on breathing with no protection. And a day later you don't know your wife's name. And now you're on permanent disability the rest of your life. So would it be interesting then for a state to find some doctors who think outside of the box and maybe pay them and then actually endorse them publicly? So this is very important to understand. Natural, enhanced detoxification, what you can do. Homeopathy makes it work much better. You get the drainage going. But across the board, we need every tool. We're in a fight for our life. We chose to come to Earth at a very interesting time. It was an ancient Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. And I guarantee you, I'm living in very interesting times. I am still optimistic. I think man is going to survive. I think we're going to come to grasp with all this. I think the Hubbard detoxification is a way to bring some people back, because some of us have a contribution to make. And that contribution may be a minor contribution, but there's a reason that we have to bring everybody back, because it takes so long. When knowledge is doubling every 2 years, some of us old geezers at age 76 are probably worthwhile saving. And I hope that you'll all agree that if I need Hubbard, that will put me there. But what does it take to get people to be interested? You have to have some degree of testing. Or people will sit there and say, oh, I've been told that I just have MS and I need to live with it, and I need to live in this wheelchair the rest of my life. You see, early in my career, I read archives of psychiatry, because I thought I'd be a psychiatrist. And I saw this amazing study, because I lived in a town where we had a large mental facility, DeWitt Medical Center, Auburn, California. And it was rather amazing to see in this study that after people have been pigeonholed, parked for 10 and 20 years in mental facilities, housed for the mentally insane, that if a real doctor saw them, more than 50% could be sent back to functioning life if a diagnosis outside of some stupid psychiatric tag of schizophrenia or psychosis and some straitjacket medicine given to them, and as simple as B12 deficiency, folic acid deficiencies, as simple as lead toxicity, was rampant in this study. And I just never recovered from the fact that we are this inhumane, that we can practice incompetent medicine and park people for the rest of their life with a phony diagnosis without ever once establishing what the real problem is. And so, I don't care if you need to have one of these or one of these. I don't care how you detox, but heat is part of the physics, like oxygen. I did magic because I had the hyperbaric chambers. But Dr. Sinatra's website, let's put the physics back in physicians. And so electroceuticals are going to become a new word that you'll learn more about. And electroceuticals influence the body at the micro. Every cell has what we would call a microscopic signal that it communicates with the other cells around it. And we're now finding that microcurrent therapy as being practiced, is actually a conference I attended 2 months ago, have seen people that with a serious auto accident are now listed as quadriplegic and in 10 days are walking to the bathroom using frequency-specific therapy. We are getting our handle on these complicated issues. And so Dr. Sinatra is now thinking that if we would just get people to take their shoes off and walk in the wet grass, we might ground the body, and he's trying to find ways to do that. And his answer may be right for people who are in the rural, but people in urban may have a different need. So things get a little testy. I'll be covering a lot of that with advanced workshops that I put on. But we started in the early part of my workshop to teach you about the collapse of the Earth's magnetic field. And we said that the field has waned to 10% to 15% in the last 150 years. And what we had was now, the average is down to 0.3 Gauss, and it used to be 30 Gauss. So we're close to what is the minimum it takes for us to survive. Or we'd be a dead planet like Mars. Why do we need it? Every organism was evolved to magnetic signals. That's how a bird can fly from the Arctic all the way to the Antarctic, non-stop, and never gets lost because but now we have all these birds collapsing because their magnetic signals are so badly being affected. The signals are distorted by all the power grid, the electrical power. We're doing things. And so if you get into this story deeper, magnetic objects produce invisible lines of force. But that's how the whale, they go 12,000 miles non-stop after they load up at the exact place that we get the Quinton marine plasma. That's where we get this special water in the ocean that's at 70 meters deep, but it's at the edge of a vortex, so it has some of the things that we do when we succuss homeopathics. We change the molecular structure. And so as a net result, these magnetic clues allow them to make their 8,000-mile trips. And on a planetary, they help shield against all the particles of deadly things. Now, some people are even saying now that with sunspot activity declining, that we might be in for an ice age. So there's a bunch of experts who want to take the contrary opinion and say we may not be in for the Earth warming, we may for a while have the Earth freezing. So it's fun that there's always a good chance to have debate in science. But it's interesting to know that ultraviolet radiation can harm some life form, and yet for me, if I do it for a short time, to your blood, it allows you to drop your titer of these infections. Now, dead birds are causing a big story. And some people hypothesize that it ties to what's going on because we know that in Tampa, they just had to renumber the runways because the North Pole has shifted over 60 miles in one direction because we really, folks, are living in times of active Earth change. So please understand that it's moving. It's always slowly moving. But right now it's moved from an extreme to the north. They will switch places about every 780,000 years. I'm hoping that I'm not around for the next time the North Pole becomes South Pole, because that was kind of when Australia broke off from the European continent, and I don't think that it would be a nice time to be around for that. This is a powerful movie that will teach you more about your planet than you will get, and it's free of charge. It is one of the top movies that has come out. It's just been released, and this YouTube lets you, at this signal, you will see, actually, this whole film is shot from a bird's eye view of our planet, and it may give you a new understanding of our troubled planet Integrative biophysics takes you into vibrational medicine, takes you into bioenergetics, takes you into damaging the reparative. When anybody has trauma, the first thing I want to do is to be able to get near them with any kind of magnetic and or electrical therapy. Simple alpha stim can take somebody who's not making sense, go from like the patient who's dying in my office, changing things. And of course we all know that we're doing damage to everybody when we're hanging on cell phones the way we are. The healing arts, pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, electroceutical, applying therapeutic energy fields, laying out of hands, massage, PEMF, magnetism, far infrared sauna, visible light, laser. When I do laser and PEMF, if you study a little bit of the quantum mechanics, you'll understand how I can make my laser. I can make, this laser is enough to save your tooth when I put a magnet out here and I go north-south. I sell you a pulsed magnetic field device. They start today between $12,000 and $60,000. Since you don't have $12,000 or $60,000, buy a magnet for $10, get a neodymium. You can always go north-south, north-south, and buy a $20 laser and save a tooth on a kid that doesn't want to have a root canal. So visible light laser, but the laser works so differently in the pulsed magnetic field. So PEMF. Studies have been done, over 2,000 published studies. Blood circulation, oxygen partial pressure. So if you have cancer, we always knew cancer grows and it grows where it's anaerobic conditions. That's Warburg, Otto Warburg, 35 years ago, Nobel Prize. So if you thin the blood with the oral chelation that I use, beyond chelation approved, and give the increased vitality to every cell. Remember, I measure ejection fractions in people. Remember the child that I was treating that they wanted to do a heart transplant on. In the end of a couple of hours of just doing biochemistry, I was able to cancel a heart transplant on a kid. Do you think a heart transplant would have helped that child, or do you think that would have been stupid? Because if the child had an inborn error of metabolism in handling carnitine, do you agree the next heart would have died in the next year, and all we've done is show stupidity of our system? How dumb can we be? And they were calling it acute viral myocarditis, and all I had to do was get the old x-ray to prove that they're lying. How come? How much lying goes on? How much incompetence? Cell membrane potential. Transmembrane potential is what you restore with PEMF. Calcium. You understand that when you see how death occurs, in order for your cell to stay alive, it has to pump calcium out so fast, because there's 10,000 times more calcium out than inside of a healthy cell. That's why when the patient suffered that acute stroke and was dead, I knew that immediately all the cells are going into this thing. And when you see death, all the calcium ties up to high energy phosphate bonds in your mitochondria, and you have no energy. ATP is your electricity. It's the currency of exchange of your body. And when you shut down ATP, you're done. So I knew what I was doing, and it worked. But we have to understand PEMF proves that routine neurological, physiological, psychological benefits across the board. There's no condition that you're seeing of any kind of health problem. If you owned a device, believe me, you'd be addicted as I am, because I'm standing straight for the first time in 20 years. For 20 years, my back pain has been so bad that I've been standing more and more like this for 20 years. And so it's been a little over 10 weeks now, and I am actually attributing PEMF to my new back. But you can talk about the atomics, excitement, stimulating the spin of the electron. The molecules tend to align slightly with each magnetic pulse, making them easier to combine. The pH goes much more alkaline. We've all known how beneficial. If it's more alkaline, you have better delivery of oxygen. All this is just so obvious. The viscosity shifts, allowing liquids to flow in. That's what I've been doing all this time with my beyond chelation, making blood thinner. Now I have a device that adds the physics to the biochemistry. So across the board, there's a relaxing of the vascular system within minutes. The blood pressure drops dramatically within 30 minutes. And across the board, the bones mend. You don't have any more of the issue of the broken bone. Electroporations, where the cell gates open to let the good stuff in, the bad stuff out. The cell will exchange the sodium back to potassium. Electromagnetic, it's causing the person to get tiny little, so you're getting what I would call frequency-specific microcurrent. You can't have a magnetic field without electricity, or vice versa. If I treat you with the new Tesla-based electricity, which we'll touch on briefly, that's giving you a slight magnetic effect. Here I'm combining and teaching you that they both have places that they're The speed of the pulse is so fast, less than a millionth of a second, that we can use a tremendous, we actually push this up to 19,000 Gauss. In an MRI, you are exposed to 40 to 60,000 Gauss. You living on Earth today, because you weren't smart enough to be here when the dinosaurs were here. That was just 230 million years ago. When the dinosaurs were here, life flourished because you had 30 Gauss. And it takes Gauss, it takes magnetic to allow exchange to occur for what we call metabolism. So the devices that I have seen that I'm now addicted to is portable, or this way, pulse magnetic field. Now this would be basically a $20,000 device. The one at UCLA is $60,000, which is fine. They have gone to the trouble to get FDA approval. They're still applying. But the approved one is only approved for depression, and it's set up only so that it's set up only to treat the brain. This way I can treat my ankle and my low back as well as my brain, so I kind of like the idea of treating everything. But I have a friend that's very, very bright, and he sold me some time ago a couple of pads that weigh 100 pounds a pad, and there are 2 on my side of the bed and 2 on the other side, so I have 400 pounds of magnets between my top and bottom mattress, so I have 20 Gauss. And that has made a huge change, but for people, just so everybody gets something the size of a quarter, just buy these things are 3, 5, 8, 10. The most expensive one would be 20 bucks. And you must have a neodymium in your medicine case at home. Just like I have everybody have a bottle of silver at home, bottle of vitamin C at home, bottle of good liquid garlic called kyolic, anything so you have an emergency file along with your homeopathics. Across the board, we need everything. The science, there's 2 vital habits when you put a magnet in. You're going to relax the muscle, tissue, more oxygen and blood flow will happen immediately, which is why I saved that tooth. I like sending nobody to the tooth. I don't like root canals. So learn these tricks. Electrotherapy from Wikipedia, the use of electrically in the treatment of any impairment of health or abnormal functioning. The use of electric has been widely researched, pain management, treatment of neuromuscular, so the device that I will be teaching a lot of people about treats edema, peripheral blood, helps the bone heal. So we're talking now about a device that can be rented by patients for $350 a month, paid for by Medicare, FDA approved. And for people who won't do chelation, which a lot of people aren't going to, some people don't have veins, or they can't find a doctor who believes in chelation, and they're about to have that gangrenous foot chopped off. We have been able to cancel amputations on 87 of 87 patients by using electrical stimulation that allowed us to build the muscle back up so that the muscle in the leg that they'd stopped walking because they had so much diabetes, they had neuropathy, they had pain, they weren't doing it. We've overcome all that, and amazingly enough, many of them become non-diabetic when you restore muscle to the body. So kind of interesting that you can do stuff like that. And then when you add a little laser to that, you now have a really powerful few things that we can do, because laser is putting more energy into your cells, and there are many different lasers out. And there's now vibrational medicine, which is actually understanding that the string theory of physics is going to be the winning theory, I believe. And if the string theory is the winning theory, everything is harmonics, which makes homeopathy the right direction for everybody to be going, because everything is vibrational. And there are people that are coming up with more and more different frequencies to help us. Now, Ken Dykewald gave the most powerful presentation that I have seen in a long time at the annual conference in Las Vegas of the anti-aging A4M doctors. And why is it powerful? He showed that if you are a physician, you need to know about the graying of the world. It's not just the graying of America. The number of babies being born in all of the advanced countries is dropping like a stone, and every country is rapidly becoming gray. So it becomes very useful if you learn what we're talking about today, because Aubrey de Grey says we don't have to sick, and we don't have to get sick as we get older, and he's leading a lot of people in this whole paradigm shift of people that actually feel good when they're 85 years of age and look good is where it's all going. So what is anti-aging? Is it longevity? Optimal age management? What is it? It's advanced preventive medicine using biomedical technology to promote the extension of the healthy lifespan. How much can we gain? In this country right now, USA, we have people whose average age span, Native Americans dying at 66, and we have another group of Asian Americans who die at 91. That's a 24-year difference. I want you to be able to give all of your patients at least an additional 24 years, and that's part of the anti-aging medicine. And anti-aging is wellness medicine, and the wellness medicine has got nothing to do with health insurance. So you learn this field, and you will be economically on your feet, able to practice anywhere. But if you simply want to learn more, join my FACT, my Forum on Anti-Aging and Chelation. I have 3,000 practitioners, and I send out 3 emails a day, not for you to read, because you're too busy to read, you're making a living. But each one of them is building my database, so when you take your password and you want to know what your colleagues are doing with ADHD or fibromyalgia, or how your colleagues are treating, you take your password and you put in that word, and you'll see everything that's been said by myself and the other contributing doctors for the last 5 years. So we have a school on the internet, free of charge, to help you. I have several websites, from Gordon Research to the one that I have that is just a zeolite answer. I have one that says zeoliteanswer.com. We have Fight for Your Health, which is run by a really remarkable woman who's recovered from MS and cancer and has advanced Lyme, and is Fight for Your Health. She free of charge answers questions as a nurse for 12,000 people, and is tied to the magazine that goes to 12,000 Lyme patients. So we hope that you will all enjoy a long and fruitful life, and thank you for attending our workshop.